Some Muppets you grew up loving without ever asking why, others you tolerated, and one of them you secretly wanted off the show by episode 3. That's the franchise working exactly as designed. Today we're counting down the 3 most loved Muppet Show characters of all time and the 3 most hated. Some of these picks are going to make you nod along. At least one is going to make you mad. Let's start with love. Number 3 on the loved list is Fozzie Bear. He should not work as a character. He is a stand-up comedian whose entire act is built on jokes that don't land. Every single week, he walks out on stage, the same 2 grumpy old men in the balcony tear him apart before he finishes the setup, and he comes back with same hat and enthusiasm, also with waka waka waka, like nothing happened. That's psychological resilience disguised as comedy, and honestly, it's kind of inspiring. Fozzie is every person who has ever bombed at a presentation, walked out of the room, and somehow convinced themselves to do it again next Monday. He's the patron saint of trying. He's why your uncle keeps doing magic tricks at family dinners. He's why you keep posting on social media even when nobody likes the post. Fozzie's brilliance is that he doesn't know he's bad. Or maybe he does and he just refuses to accept it. Either way, the result is the same. A bear in a pork pie hat telling a joke about a chicken while 2 pensioners scream at him from the cheap seats. And somewhere in that absurd loop, you start rooting for him because deep down, everybody is Fozzie. We just don't have the courage to admit it on stage. Number 2 on the loved list is Gonzo. Gonzo is the only character on the entire show who isn't chasing applause. He's not chasing fame or the laugh. He's chasing the act itself. He fires himself out of cannons, dances with chickens, performs interpretive routines that nobody asked for and nobody fully understands. There is no commercial logic to anything Gonzo does and no payoff he's working toward. He just wants to do the thing. In a show absolutely packed with characters desperate for attention, Gonzo is the most quietly radical figure in the entire franchise. Kermit wants the show to succeed. Miss Piggy wants to be a star. Fozzie wants people to laugh. Gonzo just wants the canon. He's the only Muppet operating on pure artistic instinct, and the audience could feel that. You can't fake what Gonzo has. He's weird all the way through. There's something almost philosophical about a character who measures success by his own satisfaction with the work, not by whether anyone claps at the end. Most performers need the crowd. Gonzo just needs the act. In a world full of people performing for likes, Gonzo would be the only one who actually logged off. Which brings us to the most loved Muppet of all time. Number 1 on the loved list is Beaker. Beaker has no real lines. His entire vocabulary is one syllable, repeated at varying levels of panic. Every experiment Dr. Bunsen Honeydew designs runs directly through him as the test subject. Every invention explodes in his face, and every scientific breakthrough singes his hair off. Bunsen gets the Nobel-worthy quotes and the interviews. Beaker gets third-degree burns and the wide, terrified eyes of a man who has fully accepted his situation and cannot find the exit. And somehow Beaker might be the most universally loved Muppet ever created. Because everyone has been Beaker. Everyone has been the assistant who did the actual work while someone else did the talking and has been the one thing that happens. Beaker doesn't need words to communicate that. His entire existence is the joke. His shoulders sag a little more every episode. His meeps get a little more existential. And somewhere in that one-syllable scream of a character, he becomes more recognizably human than almost anyone else on the show. Beaker walking back into that lab after everything Bunsen has put him through is the quiet, emotional core of the entire Muppet Show. Not the explosions, not the karate chops, not the punchlines. Just a guy showing up to a job that is actively trying to kill him and finding the dignity to do it again tomorrow. That's why he's number 1. Nobody else on the show earned that kind of love without saying a single real word. Now, real quick, if you're still here, you're our kind of person, the kind who actually wants to know why these characters work and not just which one's got the most merchandise. So, hit subscribe and let's get back to the chaos. Specifically, the 3 Muppets the fanbase has been arguing about for decades. Number 3 on the hated list is Bean Bunny. Bean Bunny showed up in 1986 and the Muppet fanbase rejected him almost on contact. He was small, fluffy, and had giant wet eyes. He was engineered from the ground up to be adorable, and that was exactly the problem. The Muppet Show had spent a full decade building an ensemble where every character had an edge to them. Statler and Waldorf heckling from the balcony, Animal trying to eat the drum kit, Crazy Harry blowing up the set on a regular basis, and even Kermit, the most wholesome member of the group, was constantly 2 seconds away from a nervous breakdown. The whole world ran on chaos. Bean Bunny had none of that. He was pure, uncomplicated cuteness dropped into a universe built on controlled disaster. Fans actively resented what he represented and disliked him. A character designed in a meeting room to sell stuffed animals, in a franchise that had always built its characters from comedy first and merchandise second. The Muppets had earned their audience by being weird, loud, and slightly broken. Bean Bunny was the opposite of all three. He was the moment a lot of fans realized somebody upstairs was thinking about toy aisles instead of punchlines, and once you see that, you can't unsee it. Number 2 on the hated list is Pepe the King Prawn. Pepe arrived in 1996 during Muppets Tonight, and from day one, he split the fan base right down the middle. Hardcore fans saw him as a visible symptom of everything going sideways with the franchise. A brand new character built almost entirely on a catchphrase and a thick accent, pushed straight to center stage while long-standing ensemble veterans got quietly moved to the background and given less to do. Pepe had a personality, he had an attitude, and he had that very confident sense of his own importance, which honestly, in a vacuum, is kind of funny. But he didn't arrive in a vacuum. He arrived as a clear signal of what the people running the franchise actually cared about, and that was no longer the messy, ensemble, anything-can-happen energy that made the original Muppet Show work. It was individual, marketable personalities who could anchor solo bits and sell their own merchandise. For a lot of fans, Pepe was a warning shot. The moment you realized the show you grew up with was being slowly replaced by something sleeker, louder, and a lot more aware of its own brand value. A king prawn with a catchphrase and a business plan. Okay, which brings us to the most hated, most loved, most argued about, most impossible to cancel character in the entire history of the franchise. Number 1 on the hated list is Miss Piggy. In the 1970s and 80s, Miss Piggy was a feminist icon, a woman in a male-dominated showbiz world who demanded respect, chased her dreams, refused to be ignored, and would absolutely karate chop anyone who got in her way. She was loud, glamorous, and was unapologetically herself. And for an entire generation of viewers, she was proof that a character could be vain, ambitious, and over the top without being reduced to a punchline. Today, a growing number of fans look at the exact same clips and see something completely different. A character who physically assaults Kermit on a regular basis, the one who manipulates everyone around her, and the one who frames obsession as romance and treats rejection as an excuse for violence. The karate chops don't land the same way for everyone watching in 2026. What used to read as comedy now reads, for some viewers, as something that wouldn't survive. So which version is the real Miss Piggy? A trailblazing icon or a toxic relationship dressed in pearls and a feather boa? The honest answer is probably both, at the exact same time. And that's exactly what makes her the most interesting, most hated, and most genuinely relevant Muppet character heading into the franchise's next era. The debate around her never dies, and it just gets louder, which, when you think about it, might be the most Miss Piggy thing of all. All of them make you feel something. Fozzie makes you root for him, Gonzo makes you think, Beaker makes you laugh, and maybe also feel a little personally attacked, and Bean Bunny, Pepe, and Miss Piggy make you want to argue in the comments for the next 45 minutes, and maybe that was the whole plan from the beginning. Jim Henson didn't build these characters to be universally liked. What he may really want was to start arguments that people would still be having decades after the credits rolled. So tell us in the comments, who did we get completely wrong? And while you're down there, hit subscribe. Beaker would have done it already if his hands weren't currently on fire. I'll see you in the next one.